Never quite ready, but I'm ready. Welcome to Archaeology 101, sometimes called Field Archaeology 101, usually called Field Archaeology 101. It's great to be back. I appreciate you. I thank you so much for all the messages and all the comments that you put together for the last videos that we've shot. After reviewing those, and I love to get back with you guys. And oftentimes what I do, a heads up for you, is that when I answer someone's message, I use it as another educating opportunity. So if I left something out of the video and you just happen to ask the right question, then I might expound a little bit. So if it seems I'm a little bit wordy when I answer your messages, that's what I'm trying to do, is to get back with you. So check out the messages, people. It's more goodies. I'm really grateful for putting this one together. This has been a whole lot of fun. And it was kind of the result of stumbling around in my garage and digging through all my bags of unwashed or unsorted. Unfortunately, it goes back 3 and 4 years of piles of rock, all well labeled. But I got really excited about tabletop. This is a whole new concept that popped out for me this past year recently. And I thought, you know what? I've been picking up stuff in fields forever. I should go back and just review. And I did. And I found some goodies that I want to share with you today. So I need to throw a disclaimer out there. I'm just like you. I have walked fields maybe a little bit longer. And I have an opinion. I share my opinions. And I share what I've gleaned from others, speaking, teachings, university. And I bring my best. Doesn't mean I'm right all the time. And I, just like you, I'm growing, I'm learning. And I just went to our nap-in we had recently, and I had a couple revelations happen. So I will be getting back to you with those. I'm so excited to share them with you about overshots. So that's coming. And so what I'm bringing to you is my years of experience from North Central Ohio, East Central Ohio. And I'm taking up a good section of Ohio when I say this is our experience, this is what we find, or this is what I'm familiar with. But by no means do I know what's going on in Arkansas or Tennessee or South Carolina. A lot of that is just people that, like you, that I've talked with, and you've shared your information with me. And boy, I had a flood of it with this last video. And thank you for that. When I was saying we just don't find a lot of flint in our streams and rivers up here, excluding the Ohio River, you guys jumped all over me, and I love it, and thank you. Someone said, I find arrowheads all the time in the creeks down here, even made out of quartz. I'm thinking quartz, that's got to be Tennessee, North or South Carolina, and it was. Thank you for that. And that's why it's fun to read all the messages, just to see how diverse our audience is, our family is. So tabletops, I think I'm going to call this one Tabletops Revisited, because they need to be revisited. Reminder that a tabletop isn't something that is above our head, it's on top of the ground. It's a table that sits on top of the ground, a tabletop. And one of the first things I discovered when I was rooting around, and brother, I was rooting around through my archives, I found this. I'm so excited to share it with you because I thought I lost it. And hopefully the shadows will let you see all the cupstones in it. We do find these in Ohio, and they're not really restricted statewide, though we find them more commonly in areas where we do have outcroppings of sandstone, or even walls or large rises of sandstone in our topography. What was really neat about this one is it's not far from my home in Mansfield, Ohio. And the site, I had been on it for 3 years of really tough walking. 100% of everything that came off that site was Hopewell. And this was right in among the fire-cracked rocks. And even as we look at this, there's a little bit of oxidation right here. If you compare the oxidation to over here where there's none, you can see that it definitely does make a difference. Iron, when it has been heated, expresses itself as red, orange, or yellow. And in this case, it's kind of an orangey red. I think there's a total of 11 or 12 cups. This side and the other side, what a great find. Purely Hopewell. Tabletop. Came off of a site in the midst of FCRs. So I've got the right context. It's everything is where it needs to belong. And we have sandstone in the immediate area, sandstone walls, except the land is very like this, and there's no way it could have accidentally rolled in by itself. It had to be carried. And that's what I'm talking about when I say context. So what I want to do is bring forward the whole idea with you guys about tabletops being revisited, or just simply a follow-up on it. And I put 3 things down that I think are really helpful for me. And I hope bringing these forward, it will give you some things to hang on to as you revisit this. One is just being subjective. When you look at tabletops, it is subjective because you're the one that's on the site. You're the one that found it. You're the one that knows what belongs there. You're the one that knows what doesn't belong there. And so your opinion, even though it's an opinion, it has value and it has worth and weight. So when you say, I believe this is a tabletop, I believe this is a tabletop because my area is flood stage 2. This could not have washed in from the flood. But on the other hand, I am in a semi-glaciated area, so this could have been picked up and brought in. But on my site, these things, there's nowhere. Now the clear blue, this was among the fire-cracked rock and the debitage. And with this particular quartz type of igneous rock, normally it's yellow, but this has been heated. You can see the lighter color right here, and the much darker area right here where it's been near the heat like that. What's interesting is this one has a little bit of a concavity right here. And you've heard me talk about using your 6th sense, and it's your eyes. It's seeing with your eyes, but through your touch. And this past Wednesday, I was mentoring, and the guy I was mentoring, when he went to touch, he was like this. No, it's a very light touch. Much like you would just take your fingertips and go over your little newborn baby's tiny arms and just a real light drift of your fingers, just to get a light feel. If we look at this, it's fairly flat on one side, which gives you a nice table, literally a tabletop or workshop or workbench to work on. I'm going to flip him. And on this side, a little more rounded like that. Doesn't always have to be that way. But when you have this flat top like that, it gives you my old duck expression, feathers, waddles, walks. Well, it's got to be a duck. If all those things come together, you got a duck. And it's just here. So I mentioned using your 6th sense, and you're going to be the one that calls the shots. You're going to be the one that says, I know this doesn't look like a tabletop, but I also know that it doesn't belong. And that's what I need to talk to you a little bit about, so that you can get a sense about a confidence to be able to say, you know what, I really believe this is a tabletop. You've heard me use the word geometrics before. Geo is just the earth, the geology. Metric is kind of a man-made thing, but nature does the same thing, and it can be a little bit confusing. But if you have geometrics, you put the brakes on and you take a look at it. Let's like this one, for example. Another gorgeous tabletop rock, but who wouldn't pick this up? How many of these do you find a perfect rectangular, or at least pretty close rectangle? But nonetheless, I'm going to tip him so you can see one surface and Indiana Jones on the other side. But see how flat? A little bit of a concavity right here where they're doing a lot of work. I'm going to flip him. Whoa, look at the color change. And on this side, a little more rounded. Concavity up here. I don't know that I can necessarily tie this to anything. And with my my magnifying glass, which barely goes up to 10x, I did not notice any grinding or anything going on right in this area. But nonetheless, very flat, a real slight concavity here, much like in a brazier where they were just polishing or just doing a lot of work right here. Tabletop. Tabletops can be cupstones, they can be mortars, or they can just be a table that they were doing all sorts of things like this one. Remember the last time we looked, I pulled this one out because this was a material that was unfamiliar to a lot of my lifelong field walkers. They didn't know what this was, what mineral this was. Best I could say, Hopewell site didn't belong. Context didn't belong. As a matter of fact, this has never been found by any of us before. But when you look, you see these little lines, and I mentioned to you a cutting board in the kitchen. And if you look at your cutting board, you know, those little cut marks don't go the entire length of your cutting board. They're just cuts into it. So just a different type of tabletop rock. They can be little, like this guy, or they can be much bigger. And they can be all kinds of shapes and patterns. So I'm going to add to this and say that not everything is this clear, this nice, neat, defined. Sometimes it's like this. And this came out of our sifter at the dig site, our ancient village dig site where we're working. Sandstone, it's been tremendously oxidized. And here's something that we don't necessarily like to see. This can mean either prehistoric break or our break. And that's something we have to figure out. But when I look at this, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the right angle for you to see this groove coming in here. This is not a groove that came from a plow or a disc. This is like an abrader where they're running something in here to put a surface on something or to get something off of a surface like that. But it's a beautiful abrader right here, broken. And maybe that's why it was tossed into the fire pit. It broke and they needed something much bigger and they gave it a pitch. This came off the ancient dig site. And years ago when we first started there, tabletop was not even in the vocabulary. And a lot of the bigger rocks that came out just went on to the pile of FCRs because initially my overseer, my archaeologist, academic archaeologist, who is my accountability person, said, I want you to save all the FCRs and I want you to weigh them and count them. And I'm looking at hundreds and I'm like, are you crazy? And they said, no, you need to do that. I said, I suppose you want me to save all the debitage. He said, of course. I said, how many 1-gallon bags do you want filled with those things? And then it was decided that maybe we need to look at it as a salvage dig. After a closer evaluation, they said, this is a salvage dig. You don't need to count or weigh your chips or count or weigh your FCRs. But look at the color. This is sandstone. This is the color that it should be right here. But look at this. Look at the oxidation that's taken place. And I'm going to flip him. Look at this surface. There's nothing regular about it. It's just a irregular, undulating surface. A little bit of oxidation on it, not much. I'm going to flip him back. Okay, kind of rounded. Flip him back. And now not only is this flat, but there's a little bit of a concavity or concaveness to this. And when we use our sixth sense, our eyes through our fingers, I can feel a concavity right here. I can feel a wear area right in this area, not just right here, but this entire area. And a little bit up here. Favorite spots where they were doing whatever their work was they needed this tabletop rock for. These things can be big, they can be little, they can be skinny, they can be hefty, wide, narrow. as diverse as the day is long. And that's what makes it exciting for you. It's not going to get boring, and you're not going to get bored when you're out there. When I was pilfering through one of the caves where I have all this stuff, I found a piece that we picked up this past spring off of one of our better village sites. And it really is an incredible village site. And it just didn't belong there. It's one of those rocks that you think, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'll just hang on to it. And my brain is thinking tabletops. And I thought, you know what? Tabletop. They could lay it on my chest. As a matter of fact, if I have a chest cold, I can remember when I was little having a heating pad on my chest. So why couldn't they heat these, put them on a prehistoric person's chest, and help him with maybe a flu or something like that? And then I saw a TV commercial with some lady laying on her stomach. They had these things going all up and down her spine, some kind of a heat treatment. And of course they would know this, and they would be good at it. So if we look at the one surface, flip them over, can you see, are you able to catch the difference in these two surfaces? 1, 2, much darker, a little bit of an orangey yellow throughout this part. This is probably where they put the initial heat to it and kind of preserved this side, which may have been the side that was on their chest, to help them clear out some kind of a chest problem that they may have had. All this is new information, and I hope that you allow your thinking to go outside the box when you're on your sites. This is a reminder to me. This is a reminder to me. Collect. Take them home, bag them, box them, label them. You can get back to them later. And then as more information comes down the line, we can go back and say, wow, I have one of those. I found one of those. So I brought out a piece for the first time that was really exciting. We got together talking again about our tabletop rocks. And this is still a mystery, literally a true conundrum. And I've asked, we had our big archaeology meeting this past week, and some of the guys that have been in it for a lifetime looked, and they were a little bit scratching their head up here like, okay, this is intentional. Now I'm going to hold it this way, but I'm going to turn them around this way too. Because I want you to see some intentional etchings into the rock. Turn back around again. And using our eyes on our fingertips, our sixth sense, I can feel the concavity right here. Right here where they were, like you might take a pocket knife and take a blade on the pocket knife and just work it and work it and work it to get its edge. And something they just worked over and over and over. Look at this side, flip it. Look at this side. All this is for you. All this is to help you when you get on in your fields, when you get on your maybe village sites. Do I have a tabletop rock? And it's going to be subjective, and you're going to have to be the one that calls the shots. And then we can add to that another thing that I call context. And it's, you're going to find these things. Are they commonly found in that field, or are they not found there? And then, are they an exotic to your site, your field? Are they exotic to your county or your part of the state? So context is going to have a lot to help you when you're trying to make a final decision. Now, some of you I know are still struggling with the idea of geofact, and I know new terms, new ideas, but I'd like you to consider it before you give it a toss. And basically, I look at rocks on my sites 3 different ways. There's the ones, the virgin rocks that Mother Nature made, that God made. They're still the way they were, and they look just like a glob of rock laying out there. And then I think I find what I call geofacts, just rocks, but geo meaning, again, geology, and the fact for me rhymes with artifact. So a geofact for me is something that nature sculpted that looks very similar to what man might have. So it's a geofact, something that just happened in nature, looks very similar to an artifact. And of course, we all know what an artifact is. It's something that's been altered by man. So if I gather up a bunch of these rocks and I bring them up to my village site and I set them down in a pile, got a cache of these, I've never done anything with them. Are they artifacts or are they geofacts? I'm going to let you figure that one out. Okay, I think I have a good idea, but let's see what you guys say. Remember, one of the defining moments on an artifact is that it's been altered. And if they've not been altered, we're stuck with, I think, a geofact. But again, I'll let you make the call. So we looked at this schist. And everybody was interested in the material, a schist. And the question was, where have we seen this before? Well, I picked this up in a field 2 years ago. And this is what I call a honing stone. And this is made from schist. And this schist, and a guy who passed away years back in Ohio, his last name was Otto, O-T-T-O, Frank Otto, had a pretty good geology background, and he looked at a whole bunch of schist that I had. It's a bunch of schist. And I said, Frank, what can you tell me about this stuff? And so very quickly, he pointed to what he felt were historically modified. These are pretty obvious. But then again, they could have been prehistorically altered. There's a diversity in the ways that these have been altered, but we're looking at different types of schist. So going back through my material, I noticed, you know what? I have been finding schist, both in glaciated and unglaciated soils. So it's something that context, it's not out of the question for it to pop up on a village site. But when you're considering something like this or tabletops, an X factor that you've got to figure in is there needs to be other things with it. If it's a tabletop, and I call it the part 3, and that is to consider the variables. We have being subjective, we're looking at context, and now we're looking at considerable variables. And one of those would be basically what rocks belong here, what rocks don't belong here. And they all need to be in the presence of things that would substantiate a tentative workshop site or a village site or a lodge site, something where people were spending time. And where they spent time, things were left behind. And around a hearth and oftentimes a fire pit, you get all sorts of debitage, from the very minute retouch, where they might be putting a new edge on a piece, to where they're knocking out maybe another preform or taking a final stage preform and altering it into a particular knife they'll need the next day. But around your fire pits, around the busy spots, around the spots where you're finding your tabletops, there ought to be things with you that give you more evidence to help you be a little more subjective with a little more knowledge to say, yeah, I think it's a tabletop. I encourage you to go back and revisit one of the earlier videos where I said, flip over your rocks, and then I want to add to it. And when you do, then examine them. We don't just flip them over. Oh, it's dirty, doesn't look like anything, pitch it. If you flipped it, there might be a reason why your brain told you to flip it. Bag it, put it in your 5-gallon bucket, read it, take it home, wash it, and give yourself a second look at it. So under the third thing, which I have, consider your variables, I put floodplain. If I'm in a floodplain, this rock that I found, could it have been washed in on its own? Or is it so foreign to the area that it had to be brought in? Is it glacial material? Am I in a non-glaciated area and I'm finding a glacial rock and it just simply doesn't belong? These things will help you wade through the landmines and hopefully come to a safe area a safe conclusion. One of the big banners, and you can run your yellow highlighter through it, is if you got a workshop or a village, there's going to be all kinds of debitage. May not be thousands of pieces, but there'll be some that will tell you that you may indeed have a tabletop rock. And then when you're looking at your site, look around, look at the geology of your area, look at the stream, look at the hills and the cliffs. What rocks dominate the area? You know, are there a lot of glacial wash, a lot of glacial rocks, granite, hardstone, round, polished and tumbled from the glaciers? Are there a lot of sandstone pieces because they're just on 10 feet away, 100 feet away, there's big sandstone outcroppings and they are in the field? What is the geology of your area? These are things that will help you try to get more feet under your feet, on the tabletop conundrum, quandary. These are so helpful. And I just got my new Archaeology magazine this past week, so getting close to wrapping this one up for you today. But can you imagine finding a fluted point like this? This is very close to the actual size of the piece that was found. And I want you people, I don't care what state you live in or where you're at, I want you to get material that you can look at, read through it. This is where I can say that I've had years of reading well-written material, reading material that's been sorted through with what is versus what isn't. And they're full of articles from past collectors. This is a collector that picked up some pipes from a Lake Erie collector. Collections that come out of areas that where maybe you've been or I've been. This article is really interesting to me because I don't find a whole lot of Flint Ridge flint in a large portion of the east central county where I'm walking. But this was in a collection and they had a lot of Flint Ridge flint. Fluted points, I'm always interested in those. Is the flint native to the area or native to the ridge right there? Or is it coming from an entire different part of the area? These are all things that you will want to run through your think tank and see what you come up with. And I'm going to close with this and just let you think about it. I love to be, I like the word tantalized. I like my imagination touched. I like to be challenged with thinking. And I mentioned that I found this cupstone on a pure Hopewell site. And so a while back, I threw some material together that might lean to or point toward Hopewell people. And in this case, I added some twine. Actually, not twine. It's a plant filament that I took with my pocket knife, and I cut long strips, and I took the long strips, I wove them together, and I made a rope out of it that I could actually hang on. Guess what? And I did this when I was in high school. And if I could figure this out in high school, make a rope with no one showing me or teaching me, how about millennial work of people passing on knowledge, one to the next, to the next, to the next? So all kinds of stuff that will get you back thinking Hopewell. Abalone, gorgeous material, but Pacific, North America, Pacific Ocean. How did it get here? Copper, this is pure copper that's simply been pounded down. And we know we're looking at Michigan, maybe a little bit of Minnesota, Wisconsin, tiny bit up in Canada. But here we are in Ohio, or here we are in Franklin County, or down on the Ohio River. Fossils turn up everywhere, sometimes on sites. Obsidian in Ohio, more than likely, when you find it, it's going to be connected to either the Adena or Hopewell. And then if you get on some sites, sometimes you'll find antler tips that were used as napping tools. Mica, we found mica on my dig site, on my ancient village. Usually this was in preparatory uh, uh, for future events that the Hopewell had to take care of. And awesome, beautiful, gorgeous colors of Flint Ridge flint coming off of some of our Hopewell sites. Quartz crystals are not uncommon on Hopewell sites or Hopewell mounds. This is just fun. This makes me think Hopewell people. It makes me think Adena people. It makes me wonder how they got this stuff, what their trading routes were like, and how close am I to the trading route. So something just to dive into and enjoy. Brought a whole lot to you today. Something that I love, but I'll probably be talking about this all year long. But I'm excited about the concept of tabletop. I want you to be successful. I want you to have confidence in yourself when you're out on your village site. How do I know that I know? You may never know, and you'll just get a consensus of opinions. But there are certain things. Does it belong? Am I finding other debitage on this village site to say, hey, there was a lot of activity going on here. This is one particular rock that they needed to work on. Those are some good things to hang on to. So thank you for joining us today for Field Archaeology 101. I can guarantee you there's more coming down the pike, and there's some on the back burner. So thanks for being with us today, and we'll see you again real soon.